Hello and welcome. How y'all doing today? I'm doing alright myself, but I'm just a little bit creeped out because, well, I saw something I really did not want to see the other day, and it's been freaking me out ever since I seen it. I just, I guess I'll tell you about it. So, I was out in the woods, alright, and I was looking for a Bigfoot, and I tend to look for Bigfoot a lot, and I'm real comfortable in the woods. It's like a home to me, I guess. Uh, so I was looking for this Bigfoot. All right, well, any Bigfoot, not a specific one, just any Bigfoot, really. And as I was looking, I heard these rustling around in the trees and stuff, and so I decided to go look because I thought it might have been Bigfoot. And so when I went to look, the noise stopped, but I kept going. And I got to the bush that was rattling around, and at first I didn't see nothing. But I put my flashlight down on the ground to see if there were any tracks or something from like a Bigfoot maybe. And well, I saw something. I saw boot prints out there on the ground. And I thought I was the only one in that woods that day. And I guess I wasn't the only one in the woods because there were boot prints there. And now I don't know if you guys know much about the outdoors, but when you get boot prints on the ground, they'll stay there for a day or two. But if you get any areas where there's like wild animals or something, those animals will trample over it, the critters and the crawlers and stuff. They'll go over that, and you ain't gonna have those boot prints there for all that long. And this place I was at, this little patch, it's not somewhere real public or nothing. It's not something a lot of people would know about or want to go to, I don't figure. Unless maybe it was like a hunter. But it was strange to me because that bush was rushing around and I saw boot prints. So I figured someone was out there. And I don't know if they were watching me or what they were doing, but it was freaking me out. Because I was just out there, I was looking for Bigfoot. And I didn't want no part of no people, especially no one who's gonna go and rustle around in a bush and then run away without saying nothing when they know darn well I'm out there. So I went I went looking for him. And I don't think that was a good idea in hindsight, but I figure it was better if I find them before they find me. I don't know if they were wanting me to walk away and then they could sneak up on me because they recognized I heard them or something. But I thought it was better if I went and got to them first. And I don't think it was a good idea, like I said. I don't think it was a good idea in hindsight, but sometimes you just do things and you don't quite know why you do them. You know? So I go and I follow these footprints, alright? And, well, they're boot prints. They're not footprints. It was footprints. I wouldn't have been quite as stranged out, weirded out, I guess, by them. But I follow these boot prints, okay? And it leads me real far back. Like, I don't know how anybody get so far back in such a short amount of time is what they did. But they did, uh, I guess. So I was following these boot prints, and I figured probably about 2, maybe 3 miles I was following these for, and it was a real steady trail. Like, you'd have figured it broke off when it hit a patch of leaves or something, but I could see solid prints for most of the while that I was walking, and I was getting more and more freaked out the entire time. I was wondering why the heck I was still following these dang things. Like, clearly, whatever it is, whoever it is, doesn't want nothing to do with me because they're walking away from me. But I was curious at that point, I guess. And it was starting to get dark, so I was afraid. But what am I gonna do? Turn around and go back? I done walked 3, 4 miles looking for whoever this is. So I keep going, and it it was not a good idea. Again, it's a really dumb idea, and I don't know why I did it, but I kept going. I kept following these damn footprints, and I go deeper into the woods, and I find this little dirt road. These footprints lead me to a little dirt road. And it's not a road I ever knew about. It's nothing that was on a map or nothing. But I see the footprints end and some tire tracks start. But not like car tires or nothing. It was like a little bit bigger than an ATV. Like a bigger than a four-wheeler. But not as big as a car. Maybe it was one of them like side-by-side sort of deals, you know, where like they got the 2 seats or something. Figures one of them things, maybe. Uh, it was tire tracks, though, regardless of what it was, is what I saw. And so I go out and I follow these tracks. And by this point, my legs are getting tired, my feet are getting sore. I was already out for a couple hours at least, looking for dang Bigfoot, because the guy never wants to show up when I'm out there. I was looking for him, and uh, so yeah, my feet were sore, and so I was getting kind of worried about how far these tracks would go, and I wasn't quite too sure how much further I wanted to go trying to follow them, but at this point I had to know. And so I kept walking. And I kept walking and walking and walking and walking. And the more I walked, the more this dirt road started to open up and become like easier to drive on. But it wasn't a real road yet. It was still dirt or gravel at the best. Like, it was either dirt or it was gravel. There was no pavement, nothing fancy. Nothing you'd want to take your brand new little town driving car or your little sports car on. It was all dirt and gravel. And I was walking on it. And I started noticing, like, these shacks on the sides. Like, people were living there. But it weren't, like, anything fancy. Like, it's not like a house. I mean, when I say shack, I mean it's like about 3 times as big as an outhouse. If you can imagine that, like a porta pot. About three times the size of that. So it ain't no big thing. It's not something I think I'd want to live in. I mean, heck, you'd have more room in a daggum tree house. At least most tree houses I've seen, you'd have more room in one of them. But I was noticing these shacks. I don't know. They could have been like hunting things, like people would stake out the deer or something overnight in one of them. It'd work for that. They'd be better than a tent, I guess, or a little tree stand. But I noticed them, and I never got the nerve to go in one because I didn't know if someone was living in there or what. Or something. If they were abandoned, a critter might have got in there. Some sort of critter I don't want to mess with, possibly. So I didn't go in one, but I had this suspicion the whole time when I was going by that, like, something was watching me. Like, not something, not an animal, but someone, like a person, like something that knew what it was doing and did not have good intentions. Someone was watching me. And I did not like that feeling. Not one bit. But at this point, it'd be further to go back the way I came from than it would be to just follow whatever this road is and come out somewhere else that I'd probably know about once I got out there. So I just kept going. And then it was, what, my third or fourth bad idea in this. I should have turned around. Should have never followed it to begin with. But I should have definitely turned around. But I didn't. I kept going and going and going, and I was following these dang tracks. These tire tracks. And the further I went, the more I started to notice that these set of tracks I'd been following were like not the only set of tracks that were around there. There were more sets of tracks. And I mean more sets of tracks as in there were more there were more like vehicle tracks. There were more foot tracks. And there were some animal tracks, I suppose what it was. But it was like hooves. And I figure the only thing around these parts they got hooves are like your goats and sheep and horses. But I don't think no horses would be out running around there. I guess maybe like a boar or something. But it was big. It was like definitely horse size, these hooves. But I don't think there was horses out there though. Nobody'd keep their horses out in the woods. It's weird. Real weird. Anyways, I kept going, following these tracks. I know I'm getting redundant, but that's what the story is, alright? I was following tracks for a real long time. Okay? And so, the more I follow, the more of these shacks I see, the more weirded out I start getting about this whole dang thing. I know I probably should have started getting freaked out, earlier, but I didn't. And, because I'm an idiot. apparently. And so I keep going, and I keep on going, and I keep on going. And then these little shacks start to be less frequent, and it starts getting back into like more woodsy of an area. And then I come upon a clearing where there ain't no trees, there ain't no tall weeds or nothing. It's like somebody's lawn, but it's real big. Like like a couple of acres of clearing where there's no, like I said, there ain't no weeds, ain't no trees. It's nice, clear, flat grass. Ain't real tall, maybe 4 inches tall. This grass was, and I can see where this vehicle had driven through and left its tire marks in the grass. Now, at this point, I could see these tracks went on the stretch, the majority of the stretch of this clearing, and I could see that at the end of this clearing, opposite where I was standing, there was another shack. But it wasn't a small shack like the others. It was a big shack, I guess. It was like the size of a small house. Like 1 story, probably 3 bedroom and a bathroom, kitchen, living room, that sort of deal. So not too small actually, but it was decent, but it was on the small side. And I saw that house, and it was strange, and I didn't like it too much. And I kept going towards it, despite everything in my entire mind telling me to stay away from it. I kept going towards it. And I went further and further and further towards it. And the closer I got to it, the more uneasy I felt about it. And I didn't like the feeling I was getting from it. And the closer I got to it, the better I could make it out. Because from a distance, it looked like just normal wood, like kind of a reddish color, but normal wood, just nonetheless. But the closer I got to it, the more I realized that it was a very specific type of red. A type of red that you don't really get from many natural things. A type of red that's like kind of like dried blood. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't really know too many things that uh, could leave dried blood all over a house. I really don't. And it was terrifying. I'll say that much. Well, this thing that I'm drawing here, that's a background thing. This is the main thing. So I ain't gonna put too much detail into this background one, just the face area mainly, because that's all I really remember about it for the most part. Yeah, if you can't tell, I'm drawing things that I seen. Anyways, so I walked closer to this shack, this house. It's abomination. See the dried blood everywhere and such. And then I see something else. I see a swing set, and it's on the porch of this house. And it looks fairly normal. And it's rocking and swinging. So I'm like, okay, there's someone there. Hopefully they don't pull out a gun and shoot me or something. And I got closer to it, and I realized there was someone indeed on this swing set. And I shouted out, I said, hey, I don't mean you no trouble. I was just walking through here, taking a nice hike through the woods, and I happened to find a little dirt path you got and wanted to see what was going on. And no one responded. And I got closer to this house. And the closer I got, the stranger everything got. Because as I got closer, I could make out that it was a woman on the swing, and the swing was moving, but she was not. And I figured, okay, maybe she's asleep or something. And so I go closer, and then I notice more red by the swing, and I go closer, and I go closer, and I can start seeing that she ain't sitting on this swing like no normal person, and she ain't laying on it. She's slumped on it with an arm hanging off from the side of it, and the legs were bent at real awkward angles. Not quite backwards, but definitely broken and such. And it was not pleasant to see. But at this point, and I keep a gun on me when I'm out doing these sorts of things, because I'm not too trustworthy of bears, nor people, as I've come to realize. And I start going closer to this body, I guess that's what I gotta call it at this point. And as I get even closer, I realize that the stomach's tore open, and the clothes are tore all up, more than I'm gonna do in this drawing, obviously. But they're tore to bits. 100% to bits. And the stomach's ripped open. And so I get my gun out because I'm thinking whoever's in this damn house is a psychopath, cannibal, or something. They were on to murder everybody. And I go to step up onto this porch because I don't know. I guess I was thinking I could help, but it's too damn far gone looking back at it. And I hear this chain rattle and a barking, a real loud barking. And I realized there was a dog sleeping underneath the porch, and I just woke him up, and now he's barking. And he came out from underneath the porch on his chain. And he started trying to bite me, but he couldn't get all the way up onto the porch. And so I backed up closer to the door of this house. And as I was backing up, the door swung open. And out comes the most hideous, disgusting abomination of a creature I've seen in my entire existence. And I will do my best to draw the face of this thing. But I don't know if I can, honestly. His tongue was sticking out. Why was his tongue sticking out? Anyways, so back to the story. So I am on the porch, and this guy comes up to me, opens the door, and he says like, "Why you do at my house? Why you do on my house? What you do on my house?" And he keeps repeating it. He's like, "Why you do on my house? Where are you doing on my house? Huh? Where are you doing on my house?" And every time he says it, I just say, "Sir, mister, I ain't hurting nothing. I got lost, alright? I got lost." And he says, "Y'all done saw what I done did here. Y'all done saw." I say, "Listen, mister, listen, you let me go. I ain't gonna tell no soul about this. I ain't gonna tell no soul." And he had me cornered at this point. He was within reach of me. It's not like I can just point my dang gun at him and shoot him, because if I go to put my gun up, he will just swat it. The dude was like 6'8", probably weighed about 300 pounds. He was big and ugly, and he looked like something out of your dang gum nightmares. And he says, "Why do you done on my house? Why do you done on my house?" And I couldn't understand what he was getting at. I thought he was meaning, "What are you doing?" But that's just a guess, because he said, "Why do you done on my house?" I don't think he could speak too good. And I don't blame him, because he probably ain't never been taught much how to speak, judging by the state of the place. And he had like 4 or 5 teeth in his whole head, and they were real yellow and gnarly looking. And I remember he had this growth on his head like tumor, and he had like a couple straggly pieces of hair. but for the most part he was bald, and I think he was not. He sure as heck wasn't bald because he got a haircut. He was bald because he was just weird. He had like a strand or two on his lumps, and he was wearing he was wearing a potato sack, but he's too big for it, and he's got it on like a poncho, like that, and he had leaves on him for breeches. He had leaves on for breeches. And he had a potato sack shirt, a potato poncho. He's strange. And his arms were long. His arms came all the way down past his daggum knees. I swear his arms were halfway down his calf. And he had leaves on him. Leaves. I ain't too great at drawing leaves, but I'm gonna try here. He had leaves like they were sewn to his potato. Oh, sewn to his potato sack thing. And they were them weird, like, long leaves that you find on, like, trees. Some sort of tree or something. They were. I can't draw them great. They weren't normal leaves that I can draw good. But he had them on like some sort of daggum hula skirt or something like that. And so, yeah, he's got me cornered there. There's a dead woman about half a step behind me on a swing set. And I'm at this crazy, creepy shack where there's probably more dead people inside. Actually, I know there was more dead people inside. Uh, because what happens next is this guy motions for me to follow him inside. And he turns around. He says, "Come on in here. Come on and go on in here." And so, well, I follow him because I figure if I don't, I got that dog to face. And if I shoot his dog, he probably ain't going to take too kindly to it. So I follow him. And as soon as I walk in this place, it's the worst smell I've smelled in my entire existence. It was like rotten meat and feces was the smell. Rotten meat and feces. And that's all I could really smell was that smell. I couldn't smell nothing else because that smell was so strong. Was the rotten meat and like a sewer that had done been backed up was what I smelled. And so as I go into this house and this guy is leading me, he walks over to a door and opens it. And when he opens it, I saw at least 7 bodies on hooks hanging from the ceiling. And these hooks were not your typical industrial type meat hooks. They were homemade out of pieces of cars. Homemade meat hooks made out of pieces of cars. And I know it was pieces of cars because one of them had a you know them like them 8-ball things you can put on your gear shifter, had one of them attached to it, like they impaled the person and screwed this thing on there. I don't know if it's to keep them on or they just like a little bit of decorating every now and then, but it was not pleasant to see or witness in any sense at all. And hang on, I didn't do that right. That drawing part there. It was like popped out. The eye was that girl. Just a little bit popped out. I ain't ever gonna get that image out of my mind. Anyway, so they were hanging on the meat hooks, and I did not take too long of a gander at them because I done made that mistake with the first one I saw. And so he opens that door, and we walk inside, and I'm trying to look at anything but Mr. Ugly or the bodies. And then I notice on the floor why it smells so bad is because there's just piles of poop on the ground. Like they don't know how to clean up. They just keep it on the floor. Well, I say they. I guess it's only this guy, but it's probably more than him at one point because I don't think he's smart enough to build a house. Anyhow, there's piles of poop on the floor, and I don't understand why. And so I go in, and I'm looking at the floor, and then I realize, as disgusting as it is, the floor is probably the best place to look at, considering what else there is. And then he shows me another door. A door in the floor. A door that looks like it has not been opened in years. And a door that he motions me to go down into before him. And as soon as he opens this door, the smell of rotting meat got about 20 times worse than it already had been. And a swarm, not just a couple, a swarm of flies came out of that hatch. And I looked at him and I said, buddy, with all due respect, I ain't going down there. He said, you're going to get on to down. You're going to get on down the ground. And I said, no, I ain't. And I pointed my gun at him. My shotgun, 12 gauge, had buckshot in it. Two of them. It was a double barrel, 12 gauge shotgun. And it had buckshot. I pointed it at him. And he didn't have any reaction whatsoever. Like, he didn't know what it was, I don't think. So I don't know what he'd been killing people with to not know what a gun is. Probably knives, I'm assuming. But he did not have any look of fear in his eye. Maybe he just wasn't smart enough to understand. Or maybe he thought he was tough enough to take a bullet. Or maybe he just didn't know what it was, I guess. but I shot him in the chest and it knocked him back. Not like flying across the damn room like an action movie, but he kind of stumbled, he fell, not onto the ground because I said he's a big boy, but he took a couple steps back and he clutched his chest and he made this sound and he screeched in pain. I'm like, okay, good. That means I can kill him, at least. And I aimed at his head. And when I aimed at his head, he looked me in the eye with absolute fear and hatred. Like he just now understood what was going to happen to him. And I shot him. And that lump right up here on his head flew across the room, and I kid you not, stuck itself upon one of these makeshift hooks that were sticking out of somebody's torso. If it wasn't so morbid, I'd say it was funny, but I don't want to laugh at the dead. I don't care about laughing at this damn clown, because he's the one who did it. Unless he found him like that and just decided he was going to keep a little bit of treasure. I really don't figure that's what it was. I don't mind laughing at him dying. I ain't going to laugh at the things he did, because it's disgusting. But that's what I saw. I saw dead people. And I don't think I'm going to call her this because it's making me sick, honestly, and it's not even very realistic. I cannot draw good enough to draw you what I seen. And I'm kind of glad I can't. My drawing's about as ugly as what the guy actually was, but it don't look realistic. Anyhow, after I shot him, I took off out the door. Sorry to say, but I booted that dog in his damn skull so it wouldn't bite me. No, nothing against dogs. I like dogs. I was afraid, and I did not want to be bitten by a dog that's probably used to eating people. So I got out of there. I ran all the way back the clearing until I got to that dirt path.